is the story of our amazing planet.
But the ending is uncertain.
We must find a blueprint
for a sustainable future. Call to Earth. A breakthrough CNN and Rolex partnership.
It's going to take all of us working together.
And here at CNN, we will start and engage global conversations.
Help empower communities to create solutions and inspire change.
Educators around the world have been waiting with bated breath for 3 years, and they will be able to exhale on Tuesday. That's when the latest round of PISA scores come out. Those are the global tests of 15-year-olds conducted by the OECD. They tell countries where their kids rank against others. And Asian nations have consistently outranked the United States in secondary education, math, science, and reading. So what is the East's special sauce? What can we learn from nations that consistently excel in education? Well, Teru Clavel knows firsthand. She's an American, but when work brought her family to Tokyo, Hong Kong, and Shanghai, she put the kids in local public schools there. Now they're back in New York, and Teru has written a terrific book about what she learned from watching her kids learn. The book is called World Class: One Mother's Journey Halfway Around the Globe in Search of the Best Education for Her Children. Pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so much, Fareed.
Why is it that these schools, and these are public schools in Hong Kong and Shanghai, why are they teaching so well?
I say the level of learning expectation is so much higher. Everybody has a can-do mindset. And yes, learning is challenging, but through overcoming those challenges, you gain that resiliency and the motivation to continue to learn and push yourself. So that's a very, very big difference.
You also talk about a really important thing. Again, these are public schools, and what you came back to the States and you were so struck by the wide disparities in funding. The best suburban schools might do very well, but the places where the poorest kids are, which need more attention, actually get less funding here because, of course, funding is for schools is through property taxes. So, and you don't see any of that in Hong Kong, Shanghai, and Japan. All teachers were paid the same. They all had the same resources.
They really do everything they can to fight any kind of inequity. So there are examples where we talk about in the United States, we want the best teachers, the most experienced teachers to go to those schools that may be weaker or underperforming. But in effect, it's usually the regressive, the opposite, where, well, I have tenure, I'm going to teach fifth grade in this school for the next 10 or 20 years. Where I can say one example is in Japan. When we were in Tokyo, for example, teachers are moved around within the district on every 2 to 3 years, basically. So you could go back to school and a teacher's not there and she was moved to another teacher. So you're not going to have, this is a good school in the district, this is the bad school, because the teachers are constantly moving around. And there are financial transfers to make sure that the inequity doesn't exist. In the United States, on average, only 10% of a school's budget comes from the federal government. So it's really up to districts and states to stem that inequity. And another thing that they do really well in Shanghai, for example, is they have kind of sister programs. So the higher performing schools take on a lesser performing school and take over its management to elevate it.
You also talk about the respect that teachers had in these societies. Now, that's something the government, I suppose, can't really do, though the teachers could be paid more, which I would think is one of the tragedies in America. We think we pay teachers well, we don't. We pay them very badly.
Yes.
What could one do about that? Because there really is this difference, I think.
So that reverence for teachers is really something that really smacks you kind of in the face when you're in Shanghai and in Japan. And on average, again, in Japan, for example, there are 200,000 applicants for 38,000 spots to become teachers. And it's as difficult to pass the bar, if not more difficult in Japan, to become a teacher. So the credentialing, the licensing is really, really difficult. And what you also see is the teachers will do anything to help this next generation of students. So I tell many stories in the book where it would be 7 p.m. at night, and whenever the house phone rang, we knew it was a teacher who's teaching from, who was actually, I should say, calling from the teacher collaboration room that all the teachers went to, because so much of their time isn't spent necessarily in the classroom, but it's working together, collaborating through professional development and lesson planning. And in the United States, teachers spend 27 hours a week on average in the classroom, whereas the average for OECD nations is 19 hours. So that's something that we have to address as well.
So they're teaching too much and they're not spending enough time getting professionally enriched and developed. And
yes, and the other thing that happens both in Shanghai and in Japan is you have to be re-credentialed every 5 to 10 years, and that requires hours and hours of professional development, observations, even medical tests. So it's like becoming a doctor or a lawyer, really, where you can't just pass an exam once. You have to keep up your professional development.
Terry Clavell, pleasure to have you on.
Thank you so very much.
We have to find new ways to reduce the impact of our daily lives. It's going to take all of us working together.
And here at CNN, we are committed.
We will start by engaging in global conversations.
Help empower communities to create solutions
And inspire change.
My call to Earth. What's yours?